Hello and welcome. I appreciate you joining us today. We're going to walk through a webinar on CPIA. I'll explain all of that, and I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know there were a number of people that have signed up, so if you're listening to this in post, we're going to send it out to everybody. The video format, we'll send that link out following this session today. So thank you to those that are attending in person, and thank you also to Simon in the background who is helping me with today's webinar. So welcome to this new and growing field, and welcome to Queen's Business School. So let me just take a moment, if I could, to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples of the lands that we're on today. And while we meet today on a virtual platform, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we each call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home. Please join me in a moment of reflection to acknowledge the effect of residential schools and colonialism on the Indigenous families and communities, and to consider how we are and can each, in our own way, try to move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. So welcome to the Business School at Queen's University, the Smith School of Business, and welcome to the Center for Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Social Impact that Simon and I are part of, and a number of other people as well within that center. So today we want to talk about the Certificate in Professional Impact Analysis. As I mentioned, it's a massively growing field of business and in other organizations as well, as we'll talk about, for-profit, not-for-profit, government, etc. The next class starts July 13th. I know it's January. I know it's cold. I know the snow is deep, but it's not too early to think about signing up. And we've got a session planned July 13th as far as our next cohort. And we're pretty excited about that as we're going through some very interesting additions to the program. So my name is Glenn Hollis. I'm at the business school here. I've also had the opportunity and pleasure of taking the CPIA course and enjoyed it thoroughly. And I'm delighted to be here today to represent the center. So this is the only program, and I mean the only program, that measures good. There's a similar program at Oxford, but it is a kind of in-service session where you're required to be there in person for a week. But this is really the one that gets into the nuts and bolts and evidence-based assessment of measuring good. Now, what's the story here as we think about this? Well, you think of great brands, you think of great companies, you think of great organizations. They have a greater sense of purpose, and they care about people, planets, and communities. They put their money where this focus is around people, planet, and communities, and this idea of investing into projects that really do good. And they've learned quite early that they can do well and do good. They're not mutually exclusive. And this is an important part of the growth of business as we think about the future of impact and impact projects. Now, again, that also is true for non-government organizations as well as not-for-profit. We'll talk about examples within those spaces as well. So plain and simple, doing more good is good for an organization's success, and it's good for the world. And that's the important piece here, to be sure. So we've got a very focused mission, and that's to enable leaders to measure good, and really so they can do more of that good. And that's it. The more you can measure, you can understand, should we do more of it, less of it, build on it, and then critically, how to communicate the results of that. And that's something that's been missing within impact projects in the past. So what are these impact projects? And you can think of them in two kind of broad swaths. One is community and societal betterment projects. This could include CIBC's Run for the Cure, Tim Hortons Children's Foundation. Could include projects that are designated within 3 levels of government, NGOs, not-for-profit, World Vision is an example, feeding children around the world, putting in new roads, making sure that people have mosquito nets in developing nations. And then there's business for good and business for good investments. And you can think of a number of different things. You can think of ESG investing, stocks, portfolios. You can think of, Petro-Canada put a program together looking at removing plastic waste as far as windshield washer refill stations. And there's a number of things that go on at Suncor. Ocean Steel is interesting because we had a student in the MBA, and he had a lot of his customers were asking about green steel. We'll get into some examples in a deeper way around projects and cases, and Ocean Steel is one of them. So the big question is, how do you measure these good investments? And this has been a question that's been out there for a while, and some people believe they knew how to measure them, or they've measured them with proxies, estimates, or kind of ways that they might start to do this measure. But organizations are great at tracking all kinds of things. And this is just another way to go about that. And they've historically been good at tracking financial performance, customer satisfaction, productivity, but few know how to really look at and report social, environmental, and economic impacts, projects that are getting significant investments in a lot of companies. I should mention, if you've got any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat, and we'll probably answer them as we've gone through this webinar a number of times and talked to people and refined it. But if we don't, or if you want to just ask further about things, feel free to throw it in the chat. And I will definitely try to keep this within 30 minutes, respectful of your time. So the good news with impact is we can now measure. And this program is designed, built, structured all around that. Best practices, tools, methods, templates, approaches, case studies that look at this growing field of impact measurement. And critically, it does it in a way that looks at rigorous measures and evidence-based measures. And we really do this because we've got a lot of people that are asking for these results. And as you increase investments, whether it's in for-profit organizations or it's not-for-profit or government, there's always stakeholders, there's always people that are interested. And this is why we look at things like shareholders, suppliers, employees, customers, government, influencers, what have you. And there's a greater demand to understand, are we doing good? And then if we are, we can look at doing more of that good. And that's back to that mission that I spoke of. So we're really good at looking at things like financial accounting and management. We do this primarily for compliance and reporting, but critically, it's to help leaders and organizations and people at all levels understand how to make better decisions. This is no different. This idea of measuring impact projects is exactly that. How do we help people make better decisions using evidence-based rigor and transparency? And ultimately, critically, tell the story to these stakeholders that I spoke of, and increasingly more and more eyeballs on these projects. And those are the kind of things that you'll need to wrestle with, or maybe you're wrestling with them now in terms of looking at moving beyond proxies. And there's, this great school of thought around, more than just good intentions. And we all have good intentions and projects that are out there, but how do you measure them and be able to hold up those measures to people that are interested? So we do this through impact analysis. We do it through this professional impact program. And it really is to arm the leaders of tomorrow. And there's a growing group of people, chief impact officers that are out there. And I'll give you some examples of that as we get through this. But we've had a number of chief impact officers that have provided some information within the program. And also, they've been guests when we've put together things like networking nights and fireside chats and other sessions as part of the program. So let me just take a minute and give you a sense of the content of this and how we deliver it. And again, knowing that you're busy executives, busy people out there, lives, business, family, everything going on in this world, we really wanted to structure this so that it was manageable. And it's over 6 months. So that's the beauty of it, is we've intentionally put this at a very leisurely pace. 3 modules. Each of the modules has 4 recorded lectures. And those recorded lectures you can access, you can watch, you can rewatch. There's a mini quiz at the end of them, little mini assignment. And then at the end of those 4 lectures in the first module, there's a capstone session. And it's a full day, and it's virtual, again, as the access to the module lectures are. But this virtual gathering, it's live but virtual. You're meeting with all of your other colleagues, so a great networking opportunity. And you're meeting with coaches, and you're meeting with the faculty. And you're going through case studies that bring to life the lectures, the content that you learned in the last 4 weeks. And we repeat that for the next two modules. So 3 modules in total, all asynchronous, all virtual, easily accessed from home or business, and they're intentionally spread out over 6 months. And then after those 3 modules, there's a certification exam, again online, that's part of the program to certify you as a professional impact analyst. The faculty, we've got some great folks that are part of this. It originally started some years ago, actually in the economics department at Queen's with Dr. Kashi and Dr. Cotton, who put it together as part of their Masters of Public Administration program. It was a course, a program that was offered to students within the MPA. And Elspeth, Dr. Murray, who runs the Center for Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Social Impact, she's a strategic strat professor, and she knows these folks, and she really wanted to gather together all of this information, knowing that there's an increasing need and use of it within the business sector. And think of resource sector, retail sector, consumer packaged goods, tech, a whole different bunch of different sectors that this needs to be a part of. And she really wanted to work with these faculty as she did, and we wanted to create this program that is now broadly applicable for not-for-profit, NGOs, but now critically also including from the for-profit space, as we see increasing roles like Chief Impact Officer. So it really creates a toolbox for the Chief Impact Officer. And the first module looks at measuring impact. And the good thing is the professors start the program by giving you a broad overview of what the next 6 months looks like. What do those other 2 modules look like, and the module that we're in now, so that we can link these together and give you cases and examples and toolkits and approaches and methods. Second module, again, those 4 lectures and capstone look at impact frameworks, identifying, valuing, timing impact. And the third and final module, again, at the end of the 6 months, looks at things like risk and inflation, financing, strategy. And this is where you also learn to tell the story. And what I mean by that is talk about the results that are based on evidence and rigor, and be able to weave the story together to those analysts and those stakeholders that are critically and increasingly interested in the results of these good projects, these impact projects. So this is the flow of it. And the design of this is intentional, as I mentioned, over 6 months. The program cost is $7,500. And we mapped that out to $2,500 per module. You can pay over 6 months, no need to pay it all at once. And we also got discounts available for those that bring 3 or more to the program. And we've had a number of those groups that have brought 3 people or more from their organization. There's scholarships available for Indigenous students. And intentionally, we've designed this to work around busy life and work schedules. And there's also a full certification on the conclusion of this, and there's a tax form issued so that you can write off the cost of this against income. Now, right now, what we've got set is an early bird discount, and that's a 20% discount. So the program is really $6,000. And again, those can be spread out over 6 months as well. Happy to talk about things now or after, and I can leave my email at the end of this, so you're able to understand if you need more information as far as any aspect of it. And also the opportunity to go online and look at the website where there's testimonials, there's more information about the content, etc. So let me just kind of step back and give you a sense of some of these impact cases that are part of the program, or those different kinds of things that are assessed when it comes to the impact or good projects and investments that are going on. Coca-Cola, as an example, wanted to switch to social plastic from recycled plastic in developing countries. And they really wanted to understand, before they did it, of course, they've got stakeholders and shareholders and employees and customers. Is it socially justifiable? Is it financially viable, and is it feasible at scale? In their gut, they knew it was the right thing to do, to move to this higher level of social, makes sense from a social standpoint. But they really need to understand all these different things. Can we build it? Can we roll it? Can we scale it? And can we expand it? RBC is looking at and was looking at social return on investment. So these ESG stocks and portfolios and mutual funds we talk about. And finance people want to understand, are they defensible when it comes to the methodology going to make up those particular portfolios? And then if we need to, what other data is needed to really build a case, a strong case around these portfolios so that we can talk about ESG and social return on investments beyond, obviously, the economic and profit return. Tourmaline Oil Company, a gas company, an oil company that was looking to switch to natural gas powered machinery. They wanted to understand what's the impact on GHG gas, the greenhouse gas emissions. Is it net financial and is it economically impactful? They were really answering the mail from their shareholders and their employees and their customers. If they were going to make this massive switch, they needed to be able to measure the impact of that particular business for good project. The World Health Organization is another example. As I mentioned, this program found its kind of start within the NGO and government space and not for profit. So projects like from the World Health Organization and the International Finance Corp, looking at investment in food safety infrastructure. How do we measure these improvements? Some of them are nebulous, some of them are hard to measure, some of them are in very remote areas. And understanding, is it making the kind of improvements that we envision? Are we moving the needle? Because don't forget, they've got donors and investors that they need to answer to. What does it cost ultimately, and what are the benefits when you think of health and trade? Tim Hortons Children's Foundation, I worked at Tim's some years ago, and really two aspects of this. One is their philanthropy and their focus on social good, and the other, of course, is their business. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Tim's was looking at the Tim Hortons Children's Foundation, this wonderful setup that sends economically disadvantaged children to camp. They were really trying to understand, do we add another camp to our 6 that we've got across Canada and one in the US? Do we invest in that camp? Do we draw the funds for that from rent, royalty, and advertising from our owners, our Tim Hortons franchisees? And then if not that, do we ask our customers, or both, when you think of things like coffee day, camp day, where all the proceeds from coffee on that camp day go to the development of camps? Or measuring it beyond just good intentions. We know in our gut it's a good thing to send economically disadvantaged children to camp. But they wanted to understand, should we do that? Or should we put money into something else? Timbits Hockey, Smile Cookie, invest it in other vehicles that will help children. And they started the program thinking, okay, we want to send children to camp. We're going to measure it on the number that we send to camp. But digging below that, really peeling back the onion and understanding the true measures of it and evidence-based. Are we helping these economically disadvantaged children? Are they finishing school? Are they going on to post-secondary? Are they going on to productive jobs? Are they giving back to the society? Are they coming back to the campus counselors? So there's a number of different measures that we put into place intentionally to create this evidence-based rigor. From a business standpoint, Tim's was looking at really the coffee they sell. And at the time of looking at this, there were programs out there, Fair Trade Coffee, Rainforest Alliance, and Starbucks had Fair Trade. McDonald's was venturing into Rainforest Alliance. And they wanted to understand, are these the best vehicles to use when we think of the massive amounts of green coffee, of coffee beans that we buy? Or should we set up our own program? And what we did is we ended up creating the Coffee Partnership Program, which, working with our coffee partner, the Neumann Group out of Germany, they've got farms, coffee farms in Brazil and a number of other countries as well. And we wanted to really, instead of just paying into a program or having our farmers pay into a program like Fair Trade or Rainforest Alliance, we measured the results of putting our own coffee program into place. So providing the funds necessary and buying the coffee from these farmers that would fund proper irrigation techniques, proper fertilization, growing a better and a higher yield. And these are small crop owners, small farms, a hectare or two. And also investing in the community. as part of that so their kids can go to school. So all ships rise, it's a better program, and we were able to measure that and put the rigor into measuring it. And we also looked at things like fair hiring practices. And then when it came to our massive fleet of distribution, we wanted to understand, should we move that to an alternative to petrol and things like gas, things like natural gas or electric. So measuring those business efforts and projects, you want to do this before you start, or if you started in projects in your world, how do we now measure them to understand, do we want to do more of them, less of them, and build on them in some way? I mentioned Ocean Steel. One of our students is one of the senior salespeople there, and he had an increasing number of clients that were asking for green steel. They historically dealt in traditional steel production, and the clients were asking about steel production that is actually going to be less of an impact on greenhouse gas emissions. We knew the customers were asking for it in increasing numbers, knew that there was an opportunity to do good and the measure of GHGs. Can you do both? And this is why embarking upon a measure of that in a rigorous, evidence-based way to really answer to shareholders and to the company, it's a good thing to do. And this is that shared value I talked about that's not mutually exclusive. There's no shame or sin in profit. And it's increasingly companies and organizations that are going to fund and build these good efforts as far as society and environment. So coming towards the end of this, and again, mindful of your time. So who should attend the program? Well, you, in short, leaders of tomorrow, leaders that are now involved or want to be involved or will be involved or involved in a peripheral way in the investments within organizations as it relates to impact, good. And being able to bring forward these financial measures, these KPIs, to put into place the rigor and discipline to understand more of it, less of it, stop it, those kind of things. We've had Louise Kent, who's Chief Impact Officer at Mighty Hum, a consulting company, and she was one of a number of people that have come and presented at some of the coffee chats and fireside chats we've had with students. So that's part of what we do, as well as the networking piece. But it's a growing area of industry, and increasingly, and especially now, as you think about where the world's going, you're going to see more and more need for people that are educated in the ability to measure impact in a rigorous, evidence-based way. Dr. Kashi, one of your professors, talks about the impact officer and being able to provide the tools and techniques and templates and toolbox frameworks that can help impact officers, people that are involved in impact in some capacity, these could be finance people as well, measure impact and be able to report that out. And that's the important piece, as well, as to be able to tell that story. And that's part of what we go through in Module 3. So next steps, please feel free to reach out to me. Happy to answer any questions. Go to the website. We'd love to have you join up. And we do have that early bird discount I talked about, where you can get 20% off. And it is, again, spread out beautifully over 6 months, pay as you go kind of thing, tax receipts issued at the end. And the increasing value of this from a cohort standpoint and the networking piece is something that we're quite proud of as well. So, and again, I'll look for any questions, but again, often we've sort of figured out how to answer questions, in the past when I look at, the program and who's been involved in it and how we've been able to bring forward that kind of information. And we'd love to have you in the program. It's not too early to think about this. And it starts in July. And again, we'd really love to have you within the program. So if you're listening to this in the video format, I will send this out to everybody, as I mentioned. So thank you to all those that joined us today. Really appreciate you taking the time. To that larger group that's out there listening to it in video format through the link, feel free to reach out to me for sure. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And again, you'll have that email at the end of that, or that my email at the end of that. So I'll thank you, and thank you to Simon. And I appreciate you being a part of this as well. And have a great day. Stay warm. And July is not that far away. Thank goodness. Take care.